Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik will help us reconnect with timeless wisdom to understand how power dynamics, human purpose, and people centricity can shape modern organizations. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik is a much sought after speaker, culture consultant who uses mythology as a toolkit to make sense of work, life, business, and entrepreneurship. He has written mythology in modern times. He has written over 1,000 newspaper columns that appear regularly in reputed English and Hindi journals. His TV shows, Business Sutra and Devlok, have been, yes, as path breaking, and he single handedly has mainstreamed mythology in India over the last 30 years. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik, mythologist, leadership coach, and storyteller extraordinaire. And exclusively for Propel, he presents power, purpose, people, ancient wisdom for modern workplaces. So get ready for an experience that will inspire and transform you. A huge and a bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Pattanaik.
Namaste, my name is Devdutt Pattanaik, and I write on mythology and I connect it with management. And many people ask me how that is possible. So today I always begin my sessions by explaining the word mythology and how it works. Now, one of the most common questions which for the last 30 years have been asked, and even if there is chat GPT, I'm sure even if you ask chat GPT, the question will keep being repeating itself, is why is the subject called mythology? Why is it not called history? And these are the words I keep hearing from people. And that's because we are still stuck in the 19th century. And although technology has moved ahead, our understanding of subjects really is paused in the 19th century. And many people don't know the latest developments in the way literature is understood, ideas are understood, thoughts are understood. So I want to begin by explaining this word mythology. So the word mythology is only about 150 years old, and it has two parts, logos and mythos. Logos means rational breaking down of any subject. So a Sanskrit word for logos would be shastra. Shastra is a systematic and logical breaking down of any subject. So economics and political economy would be Arthashastra. A logical breaking down of the theater would be called Natya Shastra. So Shastra is the equivalent of the Greek word logos. The word mythos is a Greek word for storytelling. So the closest Sanskrit equivalent would be Akhyan. So Akhyan Shastra would be called mythology. But the story is a particular kind of stories. Human beings use stories to communicate different kinds of ideas. So for example, when you hear the news, you're hearing a story. Now I leave it up to you whether what you hear in the news is fact or fiction. But it is called news and you hear it and you're listening to it. Or if you're telling your child a fairy tale, that's a story. You know it's a fantasy, but it's a story. So news is a story and fairy tale is a story. Parables are stories. Legends are stories. So there are different kinds of stories that exist in the world. If your parents are telling you about their life, it's a story. If in an interview you ask someone, tell me something about yourself, he tells you a story. And your mind is continuously wondering what is fact and what is fiction. But if you ask yourself a question, where do you locate faith? The word for faith is Vishwas. Is faith fact or fiction? Where do you locate it if you have a binary of 1 and 0 and 1 means fact and 0 means not a fact? Where will you locate belief system, your belief? You believe in something, you believe in justice. Is that belief fact or fiction? You believe in equality. Is that fact or fiction? You believe in God. Is that fact or fiction? Faith or Vishwas cannot be classified in this binary of fact and fiction. And we all know how important faith is to our lives, to our human lives. Now, how is faith of a culture communicated? A cultural faith. So, Japanese believe in something. The Japanese belief system is communicated through a series or a set of stories, symbols, rituals. So, story is what you hear, symbol is what you see, ritual is what you perform. And through this, over generations of repetitive presentation, you understand what the Japanese belief is. The Japanese belief is different from the Chinese belief. The Chinese belief is very different from the Russian belief. The Russian belief is very different from the European belief. So you can keep going. America believes in something totally different. Your clients believe in something different. Just keep the lights on, please. This is not a dance bar. Yeah, keep the lights on. Yeah, please. Thank you so much. Just keep the lights on. I have a strong feeling that they think I'm going to dance now because I mentioned Natya Shastra. Yeah, so please put on the lights. No dancing happening tonight. Thank you. So the idea of mythos is how a people imagine the world. How does a culture imagine the world? That is important. The faith of that culture. And let me give you an example of the power of mythological storytelling. Look at the pyramids. These were built 4,500 years ago in Egypt in the Nile Valley. So 2500 BC is when that was built. How was it built? We know of the technology. We know that they were using geometry, they were using various ways of cutting rocks. And everybody gets inspired, mostly engineers. Engineers get very excited by it. But as HR personnel, ask yourself, if I was told you to mobilize an entire workforce to spend 20, 30 years of their life along every season to pick rocks and carry it and build this structure and cover it with limestone, how would you motivate them? How would you get it done? Because it was built by people who were not slaves. They were not forced to do it. They were not employees who were getting a salary. But they did it of their own free will. Every year, after the harvests were over, for a particular period of time, they would devote themselves to serve the pharaoh, the king, and take these rocks and build this magnificent structure over 20, 30 years. It is one of the most remarkable feats of architecture. If there was no story, this would not have been built. That story is mythos. So it's not any story. It is a particular kind of story that makes you build the pyramids. What was that story? And if I tell you that story, you will say that's a ridiculous story. But it is not ridiculous to those people who built the pyramids. They spent their entire life doing it. And the reason they did it is because they believed in something. That's mythology. So it's not now you'll say, is it strategic storytelling? Am I brainwashing people? Ask yourself, you have some faith. You believe in something. You believe in your parents. You believe in work. You believe in justice. You believe in animal care. You believe in taking care of old people. How different are you if I remove the technological part? What thinking has changed? What has not changed? What is continuous? What is discontinuous? As HR people, these are questions that you will need to ask. You will have to answer to people. You'll have to ask people, what's going on? How does the world change and still not change? Because Gen Z will have heartbreak. They'll go on a date and realize they have been ghosted. I'm learning these new words. And you realize, and there's pain in your heart. And you'll go to ChatGPT and say, write me a poetry of heartbreak. Will that be enough to take away the heartbreak? Because heartbreak has always been there. It was there in the Stone Age, it was there in the agricultural age, it was there with the industrialization. Heartbreak will continue. Your children will have heartbreak. You can't protect them from it because they have better technology, or they have better food or better nutrition. They will fall in love, they'll have heartbreak, they will regret marriages, they will tolerate the spouses, they will wonder what is the purpose of parenting, just like you do. All of us, how different are we from our ancestors? The technology part overwhelms us. Science said it will solve all of life's problems. Today we know it doesn't solve all problems. It makes life convenient, comfortable. We have longer lifespans today. We have Botox today. We have drugs that we can inject to lose weight. New things are happening. But yet, some things don't change at all. 20 years ago, many of you, when you started your career, there was a word that was being used called globalization. We were told the World Wide Web will globalize. There was a book that was published called The Earth is Flat, which spoke over Bangalore, taking away jobs of Americans. Today, nobody talks of globalization anymore. Now everybody wants to make America great again. And China wants to be great again. And India wants to be great again. And Japan wants to be great again. Uzbekistan wants to be great again. And suddenly you realize that the whole world is changing. We have become tribal. That globalization, World Wide Web did not unite people. People thought European Union will create a new world order. Europe will become a great power which will challenge America. And UK said, no, Brexit. I don't want to be part of your group. I want to be myself. Suddenly the world changed. Everybody talked about diversity and inclusion. We are in this world of diversity and inclusion, and now you're seeing budget cuts happening. Trump has come, and you can say things that you couldn't say 2 years ago. You're allowed. The world has changed and yet remains the same. So what's happening? And these are the times when we step back and go back to basics. And I want to talk about basics. And basics is what mythology is about. Because mythology doesn't talk about technology. Many people like to talk about, when I talk about, I say I write on mythology, and of course Indian mythology is big. People want to know about Pushpak Viman and Brahmastra. And I say, you are an engineering student. Because what happens with engineering is everything is mathematical. What is about management? Management is about mathematics. What can be measured can be managed. So everything is about target and task. You all have targets, right? Numbers. And tasks, which are again numbers. And you have tracking systems, which are numbers. And with ChatGPT, how many things you can track? How exciting. You can track how many times your son watches videos they shouldn't be watching. Because that database on his laptop is now accessible through ChatGPT. And someone smart is going to create a parent dashboard. And the children will have dashboards of your dashboards. And everybody will be talking to each other through bots. But what doesn't change is that we are still human beings. And the one thing you cannot measure, and science never deals with it, and technology never deals with it, is emotions. Emotions are not measurable. I can't measure jealousy. I went to a startup conference where it was the big legend was give us a problem to solve. Startups, all those young men who want to become billionaires before they are 21. Sir, tell us a problem difficult problem. And I said, can you measure jealousy? One app. The moment I look at you, I should know how jealous you are. And the index of jealousy, up and down. Because if I wear a great dress and I enter the office with a great dress, everybody has to be jealous. It's called glamour. The definition of glamour is the ability to make people jealous. That's the definition of glamour, by the way. Glamorous people exist so that you feel small, inferior, and invisible. That is why we want to be glamorous, because it makes us feel powerful. But how will you measure it? I have yet to meet a jealous person. Because when you ask him, are you jealous? He says, no, never. I never am not jealous at all. When you know them, they are mantras and kaikais. But they will say, no, I'm very pious and pure. I'm Gargi and Maitreyi. They all become saints because there's no way to measure it. You can't track it. No CEO can track it. And that's an important thing to remember. The non-measurable world. Because HR will be called not for the measurable. It is for the non-measurable. In Sanskrit, the word for the measurable world is called saguna, sakara, the world of measurement. Saguna hai, it has attributes. Sakar hai, it has shape, form that can be measured with algebra, with geometry, with algorithms. I can measure it. But there is another world. It is called nirguna, nirakara. Can't be measured. We try to make it very complicated. It's spiritual. No, it is not. It is just emotions. Your emotion is nirguna. I can't see it. How do I see it? How do I catch it? I don't know your anger, your jealousy, your frustration, your disappointments, your heartbreaks, your rage, until it becomes a behavioral response which I can measure. Until it's a behavioral response. One of the reasons that the Chinese and the Japanese don't show emotions is that is how they conduct themselves. Do not express emotions. I want to show you the difference between Chinese culture and Indian culture. When you see a Chinese or Japanese kabuki performance, there is no expression on the face. Compare that with a Bharatanatyam dancer doing abhinay. Every muscle wakes up. Indians have an abhinay face. Every emotion comes up. Have you worked with the Japanese and Chinese and the Koreans? You will never know what they are thinking. For 1,000 years, they have built a great wall so that nobody knows what happens within their country. Now they have the firewall. The Great Wall has become the firewall, and their expression remains exactly the same. This is how they survived thousands of years. Today, we will have to survive based on what we know. But what do we know? We don't have firewalls. We never had walls. We don't believe in walls. Our walls are in the mind. Our borders and hierarchy, Indians work with the mind. One of the reasons the Chinese call Indians Luan, the chaotic people. They're terrified because we can do 20 things at the same time. And that's the ability to understand the mind. And this is Our scriptures spoke about what can never ever be measured. So I want you to take you on a journey of the world that you cannot measure. And it's fairly simple. Think about it. There is a plant in front of you. We studied botany, right? Now, you see that the plant has green leaves. Why does it have green leaves? Science has told us chlorophyll. Why does it have chlorophyll? It can convert sunlight into food. Why does it need to convert sunlight into food? Nobody talks about it. It needs energy. Why does it need energy? Because it is alive. Things that are alive seek energy. Things that are not alive don't seek food. A living organism is hungry. It seeks food. We don't use the word food and hunger in science. We use complicated words like metabolism. In the corporate world also we are hungry, but we don't use the word hungry. What is the corporate word for hunger? Ambition. Aspiration. If you're poor, you have aspiration. If you're rich, you have ambition. And nobody is greedy. See, rich people are only ambitious. They're never greedy. You can't differentiate using any instrument hunger, aspiration, ambition, greed. How do you measure it? You can't. What you can measure is what you accumulate. The food that you accumulate. How greedy are you? I can look at your bank balance and tell you. I can look at your market capitalization. I can see your net worth and say, my God, Bakasur, $10 billion and still hungry. It never stops. Bakasurs just want more and more and more and more and more, but we call it growth. We will not call it Bakasur, because seen from the point of view of hunger, the world changes dramatically. Seen from the point of view of food, food is measurable. Hunger is not measurable. When I look at a plant, I can see its hunger. I can see the strategies it takes in order to get food. The branches, the green color, the kind of leaves it produces, where it grows, how it competes, what is its life cycle. Every plant around me has a different strategy of survival. But I cannot see its hunger. I deduce its hunger by looking at its leaves. And then I see the thorns it has. It has thorns. Why does a plant have thorns? Because it is frightened, it's insecure, somebody is going to eat it. It doesn't want to be eaten. No plant wants to be eaten. Sorry, vegetarians. No plant says, come eat me. No. It will give you something to eat. It will give you its fruits. Now, fruits contain fructose, and YouTube has told us fructose is not good. But plants will give you something to eat. They'll give you the fruit. Why do they give you the fruit to eat? Not because they are kind. It is because the fruit contains a seed, and that seed, when distributed, will allow it to outsmart death. So it's asking you, eat the fruit, but spread the seed so that I survive. So nature has created, it says, eat my fruit. I'll produce flowers so that the honey bees will come and take the honey and allow me to pollinate. So it's a transaction happening between the flowers and the fruit. If you start looking, do darshan. When you do darshan of the tree, you start seeing its hunger. You start seeing its insecurity, its fear of death. And it knows what it wants to give you, you don't want. You want what it does not want to give you. You want the trunk of the tree to make the furniture in your house. You go to it with an axe and you cut it. You extract resources from it. You don't want to exchange with its fruits and flowers. Now, as I'm speaking, are you thinking of the tree or are you thinking of yourself? Because you also have leaves, right? All the skills that you have to generate wealth from the market. all the skills, all the experiences that get you the jobs to get your salary slip. You have chlorophyll, and the industry out there is the sunlight from where you take your income. You also have your risks and your fears and your insecurities, which manifests as thorns and bark. That is why you have insurance policies. That is why we have golden handshakes and golden parachutes. And we have insurance companies. What if things go wrong? We are no different from our plants, but nobody tells us this. And we have things we want to offer the world. We have so many talents we want to give the world as fruit and flowers, but the world says, no, we want that wood. We want that resin inside you, which we can extract. And therefore you feel exploited and angry, but you can't do anything about it. And suddenly you realize how human beings extract resources. We extract labor. We can exchange, but we prefer extraction. And we value things differently. I may value something, but you may value something else. Everybody values the world differently. So when I look at human beings, do I see a tall man or a short man, a man or a woman? Do I see a young person, an old person? Do I see Gen Z, Alpha? Or do I see a living organism who is filled with hunger and fear? Because that will not go away. The child that is born today may enter the world of digital technology, but it will come with hunger and fear. It will cry for food. It will want its milk and food, and it will want the mother to comfort it. They did an experiment where children were fed but not comforted. The children died. It's called the cradle deaths happened because the children felt unwanted. One of the reasons there is so much of cot death is because the child doesn't feel, it wants to feel it is wanted, it is desired. Therefore, you comfort a child. And the same applies to people in organizations. Do they feel wanted? Do they feel they matter? Do they feel they exist? Now, how is technology going to make you do that? It's not going to do that. My father giving me an iPhone doesn't make me feel he cares for me. It just tells me he is effective, efficient, productive. Because these three can be measured. But it doesn't tell me he cares for me. And that is what makes us human organisms. We have hunger, we have fear, but what makes humans special, what really propels us, is imagination. Kalpana. We have imaginations. And the problem with imagination is it can amplify hunger, it can amplify fear. The deer gets afraid when it sees a tiger, smells a tiger. Humans can imagine a tiger all the time. Every day you go to office, there is anxiety. Will the company shut down today? We have heard those horror stories that you walk up and the security says you can't enter the office, sir. Leave your badge. All the things on the desk will reach your home. We have heard those horror stories. Maybe you have participated in those exercises, which are clinically precise. And you think about it, it can happen to any one of us, anytime. 100 days ago, Elon Musk was in the White House. Today, something interesting is happening in that relationship. 100 days, the world changed dramatically for one of the richest, most powerful, most technologically capable persons in the world. What about us? He is almost Kalpavriksha. What are we? Are we crops? Are we weeds? Where do we exist in the plantation? What is our role? And you realize this technology cannot handle. Which predictive AI told us this is going to happen? So humans will remain humans. And it is that part for which I need a leader, I need a team member, I need an HR department, because technology will always be there. We are going to get more and more technology. Every few years, something beautiful will come. But what will not change is your hunger, your fear, your imagination, and more importantly, your curiosity. How curious are you? Do an experiment. Ask yourself, when you pick up the phone, how many minutes is spent scrolling and how many minutes are done searching? How much do you scroll, which is passive consumption of information, and searching is a crude indicator of active curiosity because you're looking for something and it will horrify you, the answer, because we are not curious anymore. All our life is about being effective, efficient, and productive in work and life. We are not curious about strange subjects. We are not allowed to be bored. We are not interested in knowing about stars and nothing to do with our jobs. I want to sit and know about Hindustani classical music. I want to know about the stars. I want to know about, I don't want to consume information. I want to learn more. I want to do darshan. I want to see people. We don't do that anymore. And I think we have to reclaim that. We need to reclaim this because, as I said, technology will technically give us more time. But how we manage our time is up to us. There was a time when we thought, it's this whole thing about technology is supply creates demand. Somebody had once told long ago when smartphones had just come and it was still very expensive and we had those pagers. My friend said if you keep a person in an empty room with a telephone in front of him, he'll find reasons to pick up the phone to call someone. And that's what the phone does. The best engineers in this world, those brilliant scholars and brilliant minds in MIT, are working to make the next generation dopamine addicts. That's what they're doing. Because the world of Saguna can be measured. Everything's about measurement. And because I can measure everything, everything can be compared. And everything is about comparison. And tell me in mythology, who compares a lot? Who compares a lot? There's only one person, very famous guy. His name is Narad Muni. Narad Muni loves to compare. He will come to your house and say, तुम्हारी साड़ी उसकी साड़ी से सफेद नहीं है. Or your daddy does not have the biggest car in the neighborhood. Or your mom doesn't spend enough time with you. They will use various parameters of measurement and then walk away saying, Narayana, Narayana. The idea of Narad is 2000 years old. He exists to make you competitive. So you're always chasing everything but Narayana. Because you'll keep chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. What happens when Narad Muni walks on stage? He will tell you your growth rate is not good enough. Top line is not good enough. Bottom line is not good enough. Market share is not good enough. So much more to do. Narayana, Narayana. That's how Narad Muni was imagined 2000 years ago because someone figured out the dangers of measurement. Because when you measure constantly, you live with a report card. The child is no longer seen. The report card is being seen. And the child starts to feel invisible. Mom, do you not see me? I see 99 out of 100. I see your report card. I see your appraisal. You have just gone through appraisals right now. Did you look at people or did you look at the numbers? Which was made efficiently and effectively with the latest instruments. And suddenly you realize what numbers do to us. The saguna. What about the nirguna, the insecurities, the fears? Will I get reward? Will I get recognition? Should I be content? Should I challenge? Should I ask for more jobs? Should I ask for more money? Market is bad. Are you sure you want to ask for more money? And these are the questions that emerge, which no instrument can capture. So Narada Muni is playing its game and you're wondering whether my friend is going to get the promotion or not. But that's life. Narada is there. We want to belong to the Shark Tank. How many of you all believe in the Shark Tank? We have been told it's a... Okay, please raise your hands if you have heard this word. It's a war room. It's market penetration. Grab market share. Dominate the industry. Crush the competition. It's a dog-eat-dog world. It's a rat race. It's a Shark Tank. Look at the language of violence. If you are at war all the time and you are in a Shark Tank, you really think you will have time for diversity and inclusion? If you're living on the edge and you could lose your job tomorrow, do you really care about diversity and inclusion? Shark Tank show will be the top hit because we love the race. We want to win the race. We love winners, not losers. We look at business as the Shark Tank today. But let me give you another visualization. In India, we worship a goddess called Lakshmi. And the oldest images of Lakshmi are found in Buddhist sites. If you go to Madhya Pradesh, Sanchi or Barhut, you will find the oldest images of Lakshmi. You don't have to go there anymore. You can just ask ChatGPT to retrieve it for you. And you can look at that image. There she is. She doesn't have 4 arms. She has only 2 arms. She's bejeweled. She's wearing gold, lots and lots of gold and lots of silk. And she's surrounded by lotus flowers. And the lotus flowers are buzzing with bees and honey. And in the water, there is fish and there are turtles. And it's an ecosystem. There is the predator, there is the prey, there is a rival, there is an ally, there is life happening. And behind her are elephants. And you know why elephants are important? Because in ancient India, we didn't have horses. And every time it rains, the roads get flooded, as we know. The roads get flooded. And imagine if you had an elephant. Would it make a difference? You could walk through muck, across rivers, over mountains, transporting goods from point A to point B. And therefore, elephants were the symbol of supreme logistics. They were your drones that can go anywhere. And the elephants stand next to Lakshmi and shower her with water. That's Gaja Lakshmi. The symbol of prosperity. A lotus pond, not a Shark Tank. So you have a choice. Now these are the 2 belief systems, the mythos. Neither of it is true. It's a matter of faith. Do you believe in the Shark Tank? Or do you want to create a lotus pond where Lakshmi always resides? Where there is wealth, prosperity, affluence, abundance, and you're not terrified. You're not scared of this fish which is going to eat you. Because you know lotus is rich, it is fragrant, the lotus root is very good to eat, it is nourishing, it is loving, it's happy. So as you propel yourself with artificial intelligence, ask yourself, what is the faith you want in yourself? Are you running away from the biggest shark? Are you running towards the small shark? Or are you creating the lotus pond where Lakshmi resides? Thank you. So that's mythology and management. We have 15 minutes for some question answers. Be free to ask. The better the question, the better the answers. Yes, sir. The gentleman comes.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, queries, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll help you with the microphone.
Just the next person also, just take the mic if there are two mics.
Also, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. So my name is Amit. I'm from Perceptive Incorporation. Mr. Patnaik, I have heard you almost a decade ago on internet, and I love your thoughts. What you have said is the great world, but unfortunately, we see that in movies, in stories, and we wish to have that. How we can really create that? I find it really difficult. Even if you talk about HR, we all know that HR in my 18 years of career, most of the times I have felt the H factor is missing. And we always try to bend to the power, right? Whoever it is, be the CEO, CHRO, how we can really create the difference or make the difference.
So forget about work. Ask about your family. Is your child thinking you are the shark that's going to eat it?
No.
There, you have created your lotus pond. So it's not that difficult. It's just that we are not allowed to imagine. This whole thing of war and sharks are real, and lotus is not real. That's what is brainwashing. We have been brainwashed into believing alternates don't exist. It exists. Lotus ponds exist. Shark Tank does not talk of an ecosystem. It talks of only one species. It talks about eat and get eaten. It doesn't talk about feed and feeding. Human beings are the only creatures who can feed. We feed, no? You have got a kadchi in your house. You can't eat with a serving spoon. There is a reason in the Yagya Mandapa they use the kadchi. You can't eat with that stick. It's too long. There is a reason. We have brainwashed ourselves into believing that is real. That is the power of mythology. You think that myth is real, and this myth is false.
So we need to find self, and with the courage,
I'm not giving
we
you
want
answer.
to create that.
I'll not give you the answer. The answer is in my books. It costs
Of course.
499 rupees.
Thank you. But that's a good, thoughts.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
Devdutt. It's my pleasure meeting you outside, and thanks. And how do you see how the sustainable development goals, what we talk about,
Yeah.
how it is connected to our Sanatana Dharma, how it is going to
Well,
change?
let's avoid religious vocabulary, because religious vocabulary is just meant for politicians and not meant for human beings. And I'm not a politician. Ask yourself a very simple thing. When we measure the country's GDP, we are competing with each other. And everybody is excited that we have more GDP, you have less GDP. What you're basically saying is my food has more my house has more food, and your house has less food. And those with a lot of food are feeling so proud of themselves that they have more food than their neighbor's house. Nobody's challenging the economists about it. That can we change the measurement and say that how many neighbors are benefiting from your presence? Because are you a parasite or are you a symbiotic organism? Or commensal. Have you heard these words? In biology we used to study, right? Nowadays we celebrate predators and parasites because somebody told us that's real. Start asking yourself, why are we not creating ecosystems where we keep talking about we have to energize people, people have to be proactive. We all use that. I've given those speeches. And then there'll be Shark Tank. So if you're Shark Tank, how do you motivate people? Frightening them, then you don't need motivation, you're scared. Every boss wants to be Shark Tank until he's eaten. I've seen many CEOs disappear like this. The world doesn't change. Kuch nahi hota hai. Each one thinks they're superior. The point is, while you're around, you exist to reduce the fear. You exist to feed people. So now look at a country and say which country is making its neighbors happy. That's not the measurement criteria. The measurement criteria is who has more food than you. We are not talking about symbiosis. Who feeds whom? Who engages with whom? We only talk about import, export, returns, and all that. There is almost a gratification that I have more and you have less. And that's what is called the Western mythology. We don't have to buy it. How many of we still talk about lions? No, we don't talk about lotus flowers. Lion is a predator. We don't talk about an ecosystem, an ecological view. Your company exists to give value to people. You exist to give value to people. Your department exists to give value to people. And yet, I go to every five-star hotel and I see every department fights with each other. Because each one of them thinks I am better than the other. The finance department thinks, I'm sure you all hate the finance department. Because they think because they calculate the money, they think they own the money. Marketing doesn't like sales. Sales doesn't like marketing. Strategy thinks they're superior in air-conditioned room. Tactics says we are in the market. HR and finance is another story. Mongoose and cobra. Cost cutting. Whenever things go wrong, learning a department has to be cut. Because Saraswati will not give us Lakshmi. This is the knowledge, the great knowledge of engineers. Without Saraswati, we'll get Lakshmi. This is how dumb people are. So we are dumb. When we start thinking the Shark Tank and there's Lakshmi, 2000 years ago, somebody came up with the idea of Lotus Pond. And now we are buying a nonsense called Shark Tank. And there is Naraduni laughing. Going to Vaikuntha and say, sir, this is where they're following. By the way, shark in Sanskrit is called Timmi. T-I-M-I. Timmi. It's a foolish animal. Timmi macho it's called. That is what it is. So think about it. Ask yourself, am I bringing value? Are we exchanging values? Are we into extraction? So there are these models that exist. But we have to think. First, you have to challenge this belief that Shark Tank is reality. And whoever came up with this idea is not intelligent. Because they cannot measure emotions. I always give this example of engineers. Sorry if there are engineers here. But what has happened with measurement, it gives you the delusion of control. Have you heard the Akbar Birbal story of a man who was, Akbar and Birbal find a man looking for his ring under a lamppost. And they all look and they can't find the ring. And finally they ask, Birbal asks the man, where did you lose the ring? He says, in the darkness. He says, why are you looking under the light? He says, because the light is here, stupid. That light is your measuring instrument. We think that will solve the problem. And then you need ketamine. Google ketamine and figure out who uses it. And why he uses it. And you'll understand so much about world politics. So that's our problem. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there are questions there. Just if someone can manage that, please. Do you mind, ma'am, can you just check who's getting the mic? Just keep an eye on that. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Please, please.
Hello, Mr. Pattanaik. I'm Srividya Deshpande. I head HR for Agent.ai. I really liked your article about the Gen Z, and I wanted to know what is your perspective of the way to handle, from your ancient wisdom, all the things you read. I'm sure the kind of characters can be comparable to a lot from the past. What is your best advice to handle Gen Z? 42% is going to be that in the workforce soon, I heard. So help us.
So, see, the Gen Z is we're talking them about as if they're different species. I've been called to a lot of think tanks and all that, where there's this terror that, oh my God, they're going to enter this Gen Z creature. And the thing is, the vocabulary changes, but it's a different world where there is a confidence based on access to technology. And therefore you have a shallow understanding. You know a lot because you can get access to information very fast. But then you start feeling things and you don't know how to deal with it, which is why Gen Z also has a very high mental health crisis. So you have technology rising and mental health crisis at the same time. It's because you have not pulled back and asked foundational questions. They do not care for words like loyalty. It doesn't make sense to them. It's sensory and immediate. But not everyone is like that. It's a bell curve. And you have to create the bell curve. And since they're competitive, not really, but you always play this game. Always say that this is not for everyone in the room. It is meant for the 10% who is smart. And everybody thinks they belong to that 10%. So I don't know who is the, even in this room, I don't know who is the smart person who will understand my talk. So you have to gamify the gamifiers. Knowing fully well that you're moving, they have been living in the Shark Tank. They all want the Lotus Pond. Many of them are single children. Many of them come from families where both the parents work. What does it do to children is a question we have to ask, because technologically they are provided with everything. Everything material has been provided. But what about their hunger? What about their fear? What about their curiosity? What about their imagination? Because it's all being shaped by technology. I'll give you an example. There is a word when I was a young man, which was a very vulgar word, which would not be used in polite company. It is called raw dogging. It means unsafe sexual practices. And it was a very bad word when I was a young person. You don't use that word. I heard a young Gen Z telling on his phone in the airport, I'm going to raw dog my way to New York. And I was like, what is he saying? I was very shocked. And I told my friends on WhatsApp, and my friends replied saying, you're such an old man. What he's saying is he's going to spend the entire flight without using headphones and without using his digital technology. That's raw dogging. He wants to experience real life for 18 hours. He wants to actually hear things and see things without a digital interface. That's called raw dogging. In Sanskrit or in Akhyana, it would be called Vanwas. Vanwas, where you don't have access to anything. So he wants 18 hours of Vanwas, which means he wants to experience things which he knows the digital life is not providing him. And for me, that's an indicator that young people, every nature will always produce an alternative. Nature doesn't like one idea take. You'll never have a world full of sharks, ever. That's fantasy, which we genuinely believe is real. And I know many people defend it, and I keep saying, have you ever seen a world of sharks? It doesn't exist. Reality is the Lotus Pond, but you think this is fantasy. So the children want the Lotus Pond. You have to create that ecosystem. You have to figure out what makes them hungry, what makes them insecure, and what makes them curious. Once you start asking the right questions, you automatically will find your answers. We're not asking the right questions. We're focusing too much on technology. The answer is not in technology. That is an enabler. It's a hygiene. Good to have. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Gentleman here, whoever has the mic, I think. So.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Big fan of your talks. And I have been listening you since I was a kid in Epic channel. So my question is something out of context. I just want to hear in your words something from Bhagavad Gita that we can use in today's business world.
Okay. But itna paisa mein itna hi milega.
I knew that will be coming. So maybe a little, just one sentence or something.
See, you can't reduce Bhagavad Gita to a tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't do that. If
Okay.
you're serious about it, then it becomes like a game,
Yeah.
right? So if you're serious about it, read it. Knowing a tweet and giving a tweet it's just fun, and it's like Karan Johar show. And don't reduce it to a Karan Johar show, because you end up with Ozempic. And that's not healthy. So
Okay.
what you want is, if you're genuinely interested in Bhagavad Gita, ask yourself, what is the problem statement that he's saying?
Okay.
And I'm just going to leave you with that thing. Arjun's problem statement is, how can I kill people? And I'm going to give you a HR again. How can I sack my people from jobs in order to win the war? How do you sack people? And Krishna says, you have a problem with sacking your people, or your problem sacking people? The possessive pronoun your. मेरे आदमी को मैं कैसे मार सकता हूँ? You're okay killing people. You have no problem. You have a problem killing your people. So you can sack a stranger. Will you sack your own family from a job? You can bulldoze other people's houses. Will you bulldoze your own house? That's what Krishna is saying. This possessive pronoun, my, where is it coming from? How do you define my? Because we all know, everybody says my company is family.
Yes.
And then the right sizing comes.
Yeah.
The right sizing of family happens. And you'll never be part of the will. That's one family you'll never be part of. I always say definition of family is if I'm in your will. If I'm not going to inherit things. So what is this definition of my family, your family? That word my is the key to Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
Got
For the
it.
rest, you have to read my books.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Mr. Devdutt here. I
Yes.
think, yeah. Very good evening. Thank you so much for your inspiring and insightful talk. We are honored. We are very happy. I request all of you to give a big round of applause to Dr. Devdutt Pattanaik. I'm a big fan of yours. I've been reading your books, and today I have had the fortunate to see you live.
Thank you.
My name is Ruby Mantha. I work as a chief operating officer for one of the technology companies in Hyderabad, having about 27 years into global technology. My question is, having read a lot of mythological books and even yours, I tend to think that are we really more advanced technologically than our ancestors? Because when you look at Ramayana, Mahabharata and all, we had, Pushpak Viman, and we had, the Astras, Brahmastra and Pasupatastra, which are much, much more powerful. And I am talking about some hundreds and thousands of years back. Today, with the creation of artificial intelligence, data science, bots, and also, with other things coming in picture, like, generative AI and then other agentic AI, we are thinking that we are more, but I think that are we really more advanced technologically?
If I tell you that we were more advanced, will it make you more happy?
It does.
Okay, good for you. We were more advanced.
Correct.
Namaste, Mr. Pattanaik. I'm Elton Ron Nathan. I head the LNOD for Apollo Health and Lifestyle. I was introduced to you about a year back. I mean, I've heard of you definitely, but I was introduced to you by this gentleman right here. He's coming on stage next. And ever since then, I've been watching certain things of yours and actually got books by myself to actually get it. So hopefully I get the answers that I'm looking for. But here's what I have a question for you. And I had the learning and development. So what's the lotus pond that HR need to create? And what is the shark tank that we need to avoid? And what is the myth that we actually believe in that we need to actually wipe out? That's my question.
I think the Shark Tank, please sit. Shark Tank is one which creates a competitive ecosystem while talking about collaboration. So nobody's really interested in collaboration. You're only interested in competition. So everything is a competitive ecosystem. It's about winning and losing. A Shark Tank is an ecosystem where there is value exchange. There's no competition. So ask in your family, are you competing? It's happening. Many young people, when they get married nowadays, because they come from single families, the husband and wife start to compete with each other. And that creates a very unhappy household. The moment you start comparing husband and wife relationship, and everything starts being measured, who takes care of the child, everything will be a chart, everything will be, because now we have all these technologies to dashboard parenting. And we forget life is not competitive. So Naraduni photograph has to be kept. And everything, when it starts becoming measurement, you'd realize it's all about mutual extraction rather than exchange. So we have stopped exchanging. We have gone into mutual extraction. And that's what we call collaboration. So we have to move away from a competitive, extractive economy to an exchange economy where I start participating in exchange. We don't talk about exchange. And as I said, give the example. Look at any country in the world, look at its neighbors and check its relationship with its neighbor. Check your own relationship with your neighbors. And that means your cubicle and the other cubicle. Look at the department and the other departments. I know CEOs who revel in their teams fighting with each other because then they are safe. They love it. It's called the Rooster Fight. So I have enabled many of them. So it's very easy to do it because Narad Muni is everywhere. So what is the Shark Tank? Shark Tank is a competitive ecosystem of extraction which may be mutual, but it's never healthy because it leaves you depleted. If you walk into a room and feel depleted, you are in a Shark Tank. Even when you win and you feel depleted, you are in a Shark Tank. That's why I said, check why does powerful people take ketamine and Ozempic. It'll tell you so much about life. And now look at the lotus pond and ask when was the last time you had lotus curry? And why does Lakshmi sit on the lotus flower? The lotus flower is edible. There is a reason it is edible. So it's something that we don't know, we don't talk about it. It's a very complex flower. And that is what it is. It's about how do I nourish people around me and how do others nourish me and how do I use this to create an ecosystem of nourishment, not competition. Now look at your children, look at your husband, look at your wife, look at your parents. Start with the family. Forget about work. You can't change that. But what is in your control is your family and your ecosystem. You're living in a PG accommodation. See how you're dealing with the landlord. How does the landlord talk to you? All those things are where everything. Shark Tank is between people. And once you figure that out, I'm giving you a metaphor which is 2000 years old. It will work. But it won't, it's not a switch on, switch off. It requires a little bit of thinking. So call me again. I'll send you my charges. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, one last question and we'll wrap up this beautiful session. Yeah, one last. Can you hand over the mic to the lady in front? Oh, okay, we have
can I
a
have?
lady. So, all right, so that will be the last question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. It's a wonderful session. And I read your book, Sita, Retelling of Ramayana. Since my childhood, I disagreed with the opinion, the way Sita was perceived, meek, soft, and a victim. And it has projected her courage, resilience, and determination rather than stubbornness, and accepting the challenges with grace and dignity. So, thank you for writing such a wonderful book. As a woman, I liked it. And my question comes here is, you spoke about the belief system, Japanese, Chinese, every country, every nation has different beliefs, different cultures. Coming to the present era where the corporate functions, business, organizational frameworks, processes are changing, how these culture, traditions, and beliefs are impacting the leadership styles and organization practices.
So in 1 minute, most business schools are teaching you ideas that originated 100 years ago in Harvard. And those Harvard schools were influenced by the East India Company. So that's why you use words like war room strategy. Because the origin of these ideas is the East India Company, which was designed to plunder. And we have embraced it in every business school around the world. Teaches this to their children. But please understand, the maximum number of people were removed out of poverty in China in the 20th century by a method which doesn't follow the Western model. We don't agree with that model. It's not an Indian model. It's a very disturbing model, but it works in China. Maximum number of people pulled out of poverty in the world. Maximum number of people made literate using their local model. So when you use a local model, it works dramatically. China used a local model. Korea used a local model, a hybrid model. They used a Western model, but I can tell you how they use the Chinese model. It's called the hermit model. It's a very famous. It's based on the firewall. Even the Japan uses the hermit model. India is lost. We are not able to figure out where we are because we don't see the lotus pond. We don't trust. We use words like Sanatan Dharma, and we're excited about Brahmastra. We are not seeing the lotus pond. We are not understanding Vaikuntha. What does it mean? We are not doing darshan. I use words like Saguna, Nirguna, Narada, but it's not about feeling proud of your culture. It's about understanding your culture. Because only when you understand it will you implement it. When you worship a book, you don't understand it. Knowledge doesn't come through osmosis. You have to read the book. You have to read the book. You can't just do arati of the book. And that's the problem. We need to look at our culture. There are cultures, and that old East India Company model is now being challenged. That is why globalization didn't work, and now we have become tribal across the world. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wind up this wonderful session. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That was indeed so enlightening, Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik. Wow.